Who wrote it? You can It's a very good plan.
If he'll have me, which
I think he will. He will.
he's so good.
I think, people out there, you know, so absolutely. Great.
Hello.
What?
We're good now, thanks.
I'll see you.
See you when I see you. Yeah.
He's going down to watch the real show.
Be intent.
And a dad.
Oh.
Present with Mr. Amoroso, Glenn Fontecchio joining us, legal counsel Amy Gowen, Ray Lady, executive director, myself, Bill Fazio, Dominic Carnarelli, and Jennifer Griffith. So, right, Dave O'Connell, yeah, so. Okay, great, there we go.
You're in the room doing?
Yeah. Right, we're in a different room, but we're live, just so you remember. So remember to speak up and so people can hear us on the mic.
No, you're good.
You can hear us good?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess we'll go ahead and start off with the first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of May 16th, 2024.
I'll second.
Any discussion or questions on the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. And under new business, we're going to continue the public hearing on Mediconic Property LLC's application for a proposed development located at 500 Veterans Memorial Parkway. I know that it was a design review commission meeting last week, so Steve, I don't know if you wanted to do a brief overview, if you'd like to just have the applicant go in and give us an update to the full.
Yeah, just give one an update. It's pretty straightforward.
Sure. Great. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Casio.
Yeah.
As everyone knows, Josh Berlinski, Darrow Everett, represent the applicant Mediconic Development. I'd want to start with letting everyone know, if you didn't already know, that the golf course opened today to the public. I believe it was sold out. It was perfect weather for for the event and just tremendously excited for residents of East Providence and Rhode Island, New England to take advantage of that course. I was fortunate to be at the groundbreaking on Tuesday. It is spectacular, and I hope everyone gets the opportunity to enjoy it. And thank you to this commission for the crucial part you played in bringing that to fruition. So just wanted to start there. All right. At tonight's meeting, we are going to review the current status of the project. Matt Merva of Bowler is going to update you on certain revisions we have made to the landscaping and design plans. Keith Curran, also of Bowler, is going to update the commission on the status of the utility capacity analysis, as well as an update on an ongoing dialogue with CRMC. Finally, Paul Bannon of Crossman Engineering is going to spend a few minutes providing a recap of what the applicant actually proposes in terms of traffic and offsite improvements, and update the commission on the applicant's efforts and outreach to date. We will conclude tonight's presentation with a brief presentation by Paul Pisano of Marshall Properties concerning Phase 1A of the development, which was the subject of the last Design Review Committee meeting earlier this month. Next month, we will be seeking a recommendation from DRC and planning of Phase 1A. Briefly, before we commence with the presentation from the consultants, just wanted to provide a brief summary of what's gone on thus far and how we expect to continue going forward. We're calling this our where we've been, where we're going update. So far this year, following the issuance of the certificate of completeness, we had our initial hearing on February 15th before this commission, where we had primarily the presentation on fiscal impact by Todd Poole of Forward Planning. In March 20th, we continued before this commission with the presentation by Deborah Cox of PAL. On March 28th, March 28th, we had the presentation regarding PAL's role in the public survey, in the archaeological survey. On April 10th, we had our first design review committee meeting, which was an extended meeting whereby we were able to finally go through our architectural design, layout of the buildings, commercial and residential breakdown of the proposal, pedestrian and vehicular movement plan, landscape and lighting, grading, drainage, utilities, and transportation plan. On April 18th, we appeared before Waterfront to begin discussions on the golf course and also update the commission on status so far. May 9th, back before design review to obtain a recommendation on Phase 1, which was the golf course. May 13th, the planning to obtain a recommendation as to Phase 1 with the city's comprehensive plan. May 16th, back before this commission to approval of Phase 1. And then 2 weeks ago on June 13th, back before design review to discuss 1A. So following these 5 months worth of hearings, we have identified the following remaining deliverables, which we intend to submit prior to seeking our recommendation from design review and the corresponding approval from the commission. This is what we're going to call our scorecard, and we're going to update this every month before our meetings here. Dave, you might take one, passing it down. And as we continue to submit and continue to present, we'll be updating the card. Also, to the extent any members of this commission feel like we're missing anything, please let us know and we'll add to the list. But this is what we're keeping track of as we proceed with our approval. So, and I just organized it in alphabetical order. The first one is the archaeological study. As I mentioned at the design review earlier this month, the survey was completed, I believe, June 12th. The report is going to be submitted to Rhode Island Historic within 30 days or so thereafter. Once that survey is submitted, the results of the analysis by PAL, we will present it to the commission. Architectural plans. We generated updated renderings for the residential buildings showing the potential solar capacity per the request of the DRC. And we also submitted renderings for the Phase 1A building. Those were completed and delivered June 13th. For landscaping and engineering, we've updated the landscaping plans per the design review committee. We completed and delivered those for the commission review on June 13th. The hydro analysis confirming utility capacity, the analysis has since been completed. It's being reviewed with the city, the engineering department and DPW. And following which we have consensus on that, we'll seek their firm sign off on that element. The PAR peer review sign off of the stormwater, we submitted our response to the peer review in May of 2024. We're awaiting a response. We also received comments from the fire department. We responded in May 2024, pursuant to which we also sought the fire department's approval to the public safety impact assessment. As many of you know, the fire department previously in a public meeting indicated their acceptance with those terms of that proposal, but we're looking for something formal to confirm their agreement with its conclusions. And once we have the city buy-in to the utility capacity analysis, we'll seek formal confirmation from the fire department. Fiscal analysis, that was the subject of our first presentation back in February. Last month, we received a peer review from RKG Associates. Forward planning and preparing a response. And Todd Poole will be here next month to discuss his update and provide a comprehensive response to those issues raised. The noise study. David Cote Consulting has received the truck traffic movements and the corresponding data involved with that truck movement. He's also received the analysis of the mechanical systems for the buildings, and he's begun incorporating them into his study. The estimated delivery date for that revised draft is sometime in July 2024, hopefully in time for the next series of meetings before design review and Waterfront. Traffic offsite improvements, and I'm listing these criteria. This was as a result of the consensus we reached with design review earlier this month. We're going to get a letter from DOT with the authorization to proceed with the physical alteration permit application. We're going to get power engineering buy-in of the peer reviews that they commented on. They commented on both the Van Ness study as well as the Crosswind supplement. We're going to get them responses and acknowledgements and acceptances of both. We're going to confirm the approval of the traffic and offsite improvement plan by the appropriate city departments. And then pursuant to a request made by DRC in this month's meeting, we're going to make a good faith effort to see if we can obtain a similar confirmation from the Scenic Roadways Board as we are seeking from DOT. For those of you that have not had prior experience with Scenic Roadways, that is an advisory board to DOT. So they just use DOT staff. They're an adjunct, they're adjacent to DOT. So it's not like there would be an additional or separate team that would be reviewing that. So it's not outside the realm of possibility that Scenic Roadway would say, well, the same people that would be providing the tentative acknowledgement are the ones that already commented. If they say that, well, something in writing that says that.
And does the Scenic Roadway Board have independent authority to veto anything, or are they simply advisory?
They're advisory. So what's going to happen is Department of Transportation will make the approval of Scenic Roadway contingent on Scenic Roadways approval. But they are not a standalone entity. They are a corollary of DOT.
If DOT approval is contingent on approval of the board, though, if the board withholds approval, that's it?
Presumably, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm not aware of any approval that's proceeded along those paths. Only one was Kettle Point. And as Amy, I think you know, Scenic Roadway and DOT worked in conjunction there to issue their approval after a fairly lengthy application process. So there's submissions and resubmissions of physical alteration permit basis. There were alterations and modifications to the layout along that slice of Veterans Memorial Parkway that DOT required. And once Scenic Roadways gave their buy-in, DOT issued the path. So that's our scorecard. So you got it. So every month we'll come here, in addition to our presentation, we'll update the scorecard and we'll kind of keep everyone apprised of the developments. We think we're narrowing the list and we appreciate your input and your participation thus far, especially in the warm summer months. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt Merva, who's going to give a brief overview of where we are so far with the landscape and architectural designs thus far. Thank you.
Good evening, Matt Merva with Bowler. Here to just kind of give a brief overview of where we've been since we were last here through our discussions with the Design Review Committee. And just to give you a quick update this evening. Excellent. So we had talked at length about the realignment of the entry drive into the project here, which was pretty well received by the review committee, and we were asked to just look at a cross section through Line Ave to the rear of the grocery store where the loading is. So that was something we went over at the hearing a couple of weeks ago. This is that cross section. So just to show you Line Ave here on the left. This is the landscape buffer and sidewalk that would be the public sidewalk along the roadway. And then the retaining wall that we've added since the original design allows us to create a larger berm adjacent to the roadway and screen the view into the loading area from the roadway. So this cross section is just meant to illustrate that relationship. We'll have a fence and buffer planting along that edge, which has been updated and reflected on the latest landscape plans. We did discuss at the last hearing wrapping all of these modifications into one final set that you'll receive, so you're not getting dribs and drabs of little modifications here and there. We'll collect all these comments and these responses and get them into one full detailed set. We also discussed the solar study. That was something we wanted to look at as requested by the commission and by the design review, just how we were going to integrate solar, where those possibilities are. John Selly, who's not here tonight, but put together some slides that we reviewed at the design review committee at the last hearing. And we looked at a few different options, right? There's the buildings that will essentially remain under the control of Marshall, right? The commercial buildings that would be part of that, the mixed use development more towards the heart of the community there. And we described how we might be able to put some solar panels on pitched roofs of, this is the golf operation building as an example. And so showed some layouts for how that might be achieved. At the end of the day, this is a food hall operation. It's a pretty heavy energy user. Ultimately, the amount of solar we'd be able to gain from putting these fixtures on the roofs is really only going to be a small percentage of the actual usage of that building. So that's something that we did study, but it's not something that's really going to be viable from an economic standpoint. We looked at those in elevation as well, just to show what that would look like. You can see the panels along that roof. And then we also looked at the multifamily residential buildings. You know, how could we attach solar to those areas as well? Again, these are multi-unit, multi-story buildings, pretty limited areas where we can actually put those panels based on the pitches of the roofs and trying to keep those roof lines interesting. There aren't a lot of flat sections. We're really trying to minimize that. So again, we're looking at these solar panels probably handling about 1.5% of the annual electricity usage required by these buildings. But we did want to study where those could be, and it's a limited opportunity there. The biggest impact we think you could have is on the townhome buildings that line the golf course. The roofs for those could handle on the south-facing slopes enough panels to probably accommodate about 70 to 75% of the annual electricity needs for this type of structure. So John Selly went through all these points at the Design Review Commission meeting, and we just wanted to kind of bring that to your attention tonight and talk through some of those ideas. The larger commercial buildings, those are going to be kind of tenant-based, right? We still have to land tenants for some of those commercial buildings, and how we handle solar in those instances is really going to be based on what we negotiate with them. So that's going to require some further study down the road here. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Keith Curran from our office, who's just going to run through a quick utility drainage update, and we'll move on from there. Thank you. Hey, man, you can just click there.
All right, so one thing that we were tasked with, the engineering obviously reviewed the plans, was to figure out the water supply, mainly the fire flow analysis. So this plan simply shows in blue would be the proposed 12-inch main that would run through the development in phase 1 and phase 2. Again, that yellow dashed line is the separation between phase 1 and phase 2. The red lines are proposed 8-inch main. So what Pi Corporation has done is they actually reviewed the city's infrastructure and we used our proposal and all the fire flow demands for every single building, including phase 1 and phase 2. So basically under phase 1, with a 12-inch connection out to Lyons in 2 locations, and actually a city planned improvement to extend the 10-inch main in Lyons to 4th Street, there's no issues. So Power is going to submit this report in about 2 to 3 weeks. They'll provide all the calculations and everything else showing that we can hit all the fire flow requirements for all those buildings in phase 1. In phase 2, you can see that again in blue, that 12-inch main that's heading out towards 4. With the connection, it's off screen, but with the connection to the main in Juniper, then again, all infrastructure that's in phase 2, again, would hit the requirements of the fire flow. So this will be submitted to the DPW Engineering Department, also the fire chief. So they're both requesting this information. Another thing that we've been doing over the past month or two is we've been communicating with CRMC concerning the stormwater design. So we've had numerous calls with them and numerous back and forth emails just to make sure that we're providing what they'll be looking for. We haven't made this submittal yet, but it's going to be in the near future. And basically a lot of discussions about, obviously, we're going to hit all the requirements. But some of the things we've been discussing is that outfall that now goes to the cove is going to be upsized. And we're able to do that. And we're also going to hit all the requirements for infiltration. So that is ongoing. And we've been having that discussion to make sure, again, we're providing everything that they'd be looking for. Yes, sir.
I think I have a guess as to what you mean when you said the outflow that's now going to the cove is gonna be upsized, but can you put that in plain English?
Sure. So right now it's a 24-inch. See if I can use this lid as a point here. Not the best with this, but right now there's an existing pipe that goes to here from the site. So it's 24-inch in rough shape. So the plan will be to upsize that either to a 36, 48, or even do a dual pipe. So the idea is, though, that since this is tidal, we don't need to worry about to this discharge the previous post. So the quantity that goes there, we have to treat the quality, not the quantity. So we'll be, obviously we're adding pervious, so that pipe would need to be upsized to handle that flow. But we still have to provide all the required infiltration and treatment to obviously protect the cove.
So your treatment's gonna be done in the parking lots?
So yeah, so most of our treatment, we have a wet basin here, and there's a few minor locations, but a good majority, I'd say 80% of it, will be subsurface underneath
So
the parking.
you'll have to trench through the golf course and make repairs.
Yes, we're gonna try not destroy anything, it's gonna be tricky, so we're looking at that.
Don't mess it up, looks really nice.
Yes, but that pipe, like I said, is too small to handle the flow that will be coming from the
But
development.
your quality requirements gonna be taken care of.
We'll be taking care of on the
On
site,
site.
on the development up here, all that quality will be taken care of before it even makes it to that pipe.
So the point is the discharge into the cove, the water will be treated, the discharge.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to.
There'll be more flow coming, but it'll be all treated per the,
Before
state requirements,
discharge.
before discharge, correct?
And,
What's
is
the name
the,
of that apparatus? You can tell them. The one we're considering, the filtered apparatus?
So it's different, it's called a jellyfish. So I don't know if you know what that is, but basically it's a filtering practice, has cartridges in there. So it basically that provides treatment, and then there's a maintenance program that will be, submitted as part of, the submittal CRC that talks about the maintenance and replacing the cartridges.
so does PM also get to review this, or is it under the jurisdiction of the CRC?
It's so the administration of CRMC, yes.
They're more strict than we are.
Yeah.
The requirements through CRMC are gonna more than be adequate.
Yes, like I said, we have to, obviously they'll review it fully, but we have to provide all that quality treatment I'm talking about before. It'll be actually all treated, like I said, all up here, and it'll actually be treated before it gets into that new pipe that'll discharge here.
So
The whole development will be
So
treated.
just to clarify that, the water that comes out of that pipe now from the golf course is untreated.
This will be
So
improvement, yes.
this is a far improvement.
It will be
of the
improvement.
treated water.
Yeah, right now, there's no treatment really going on at all. We're adding all this impervious again, we have to hit those high quality.
Exactly, but just to reinforce the point, there's no treatment going into the cove now. The water that's going to go into the cove is actually gonna be treated in better condition than what the current condition is.
Correct.
Except one last question,
Sure.
I don't know if Josh, I know state, does DEP have to review the wastewater capacity of the city at some point? I don't know if that's.
Issue a Ritten's? The issue of Ritten's permit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe they will.
And also, I guess, just the city's capacity, sewer plant Riverside to handle the increased flow. I mean,
Yeah.
is that something that's underway?
We set something else on the way. So we have met again with the engineering DB, talked about that. There's an existing 10-inch sewer pipe that runs out to the parkway. We're connecting into that. We've actually CCTV'd it, and there's also numerous structures. We're still reviewing that, but it does not need to be fully replaced. It's probably going to be lined. But the idea is that 10-inch, and again, we have calculations that's showing that will provide that 10 inch is more than enough capacity to handle the flow from the site. And then we'll have a plan showing the improvements for that pipe to make sure there's no leaking or anything like that.
And then obviously, this DPW staff will review, once it arrives at the plant, its capacity of the plant to handle it.
They said that, yes, we've had conversation with them, that's not an issue. The only concern they had was, again, was that existing pipe
Right.
and that condition, and just to confirm that it's 10-inch and can flow, which we have confirmed it's a 10
And
inch.
all of the internal improvements for the piping and all of that, that's being paid by the developer.
All internal, yes, including that upgrade or the improvements to that 10-inch pipe, again, will be paid by the developer, all internal. So, yeah,
Even the water. So you mentioned that there's some extensions down Jupiter.
that hasn't been discussed
Is
yet.
that, is that city planned?
Yeah, I think getting it outside the site
The-
probably is a responsibility.
Yeah, that has been discussed fully. I know that, like, again, this section offsite to Juniper wasn't a city plan, but the increased improvement to the small section here for phase one to be able to do everything, that was a city plan project. This is like a bottleneck right here, and it's literally a couple hundred feet of increasing that size to a 10-inch that alleviates that. And again, makes everything work in phase one.
There's an 8-inch that currently feeds the 12-inch in Mercer, which is preventing it to obtain the capacity that we need. So by just patching it together like one street up, we tap into another 12, and that gives us.
That's down to Juniper.
That's a different connection. I'm talking about the connection with the lines.
All right.
There's a 12-inch in Fort. Right now, that other one's being fed from Mercer, which is only an 8-inch.
Right, okay.
So that's separate. Phase two, this is where, like, none of this needs to occur. Obviously, this is the phase one, phase two line. But if phase two, to make all the fire flows works, that's when we're talking about that connection out to Juniper from here.
So there'll be plenty of time to get that.
And Mr. Fazzoli, just to confirm your question, I just looked at our initial narrative that accompanied the submission back in December, and we did list of RIPDs for stormwater discharge as one of the required permits, along with the CRMC approval that Keith is referring to, as well as the DOT PAP and the scenic roadway. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Bannon now is going to talk and discuss offsite improvements.
Good evening, Paul Bannon with Crossman. Josh had spoken about the overall process and update. I'll stick to the traffic element and provide an update. Okay, on that, and additionally provide clarification on the off-site improvements. In speaking recently with the city, you understand there's a misinterpretation of what the roundabout design intent and goals are. So I would, just as a benefit of the commission and the public, I'd just like to further clarify what we're doing as part of that plan. I want to clarify what and why it's being proposed. As I had indicated in earlier meetings, consideration of a roundabout was considered back over 15 years ago as part of the Village on Waterfront project. That's across the street from the Mid-Comet property. And the roundabout was part of the extended Waterfront Drive and connection and linking to Veterans Memorial Parkway. This was further advanced with the city's 2010-2015 comprehensive plan update, where they called for a context-sensitive roundabout for traffic calming, safe pedestrian access, and efficient vehicular circulation to the waterfront at this location. So this design was considered over 15 years ago as a way to provide access from the waterfront to the parkway. Back then, through the recession in 2007 and other environmental and matters on that property, it was never constructed. Also, the roundabout was never constructed. But there are new owners on the property, and it's their intent to develop that property over time based on their development program. We fast forward to today. If that project had been built, we would just be relocating our driveway, as we're presently proposing, to our new location on the parkway. We'd be adding two driveways on Lion Ave and using the roundabout that existed as part of this development project. But that project not happening, we're the first in the area to move forward. The responsibility for that infrastructure upgrade is now on us to be done. So, 15 years later, we'll be working with the state and the city to advance that infrastructure design. This project gives the city and the state an opportunity to beautify this section of the parkway. The section along our property frontage is unlike the other sections of the parkway to the north and south. It's a straight, level, high-speed section of the parkway, where to the north and south, you have curvilinear features, horizontal, vertical, tree-lined roadway. This is a photograph looking at the office park looking to the north. Looking back at our site, this is what's there. Void of trees, void of physical geometry. So what our intent is to take this opportunity to bring characteristics back to this section of the parkway and work with the city and the state Scenic Roadways Board to implement features that are consistent with the other portions of the parkway and bring it back to the beauty it can be. And the roundabout provides that opportunity for additional landscaping, physical roadway infrastructure features that enhance and beautify this section of the parkway. The goal and intent is to construct this as it was proposed 15 years ago in support of the goals of the city and the Waterfront Commission in revitalizing the waterfront and taking this opportunity to enhance this section of neglected parkway that will provide traffic calming, safe pedestrian access, efficient vehicular circulation, and most importantly, constructing a cohesive, context-sensitive parkway design consistent with the historic nature of the parkway. How do I go back? Is that it? Yep. Okay, this is the design we're proposing. As we work with the design review committee on the internal driveway, this is no longer what's being proposed. More curvilinear design has been introduced. So similar to what we did in working with the city, in working with city and state, this is a concept for capacity in operations and safety. As we look and work with the city, the state, and Scenic Roadways Board, we'll probably introduce curriculum, have more detail on the enhancements, the trees, hardscape features, whether it's brick, cobble, how the city wants to see what's in the middle of the roundabout, and the Scenic Roadways Board wants to see what's in the middle of the roundabout. So we're going to work on all those features as we proceed through the design to make it what it can be. Coming from the north, this is the Office Park driveway. The roadway today, we're going from 2 lanes here. We're going to, for safety reasons, today if you turn into the Office Park, you're in the travel lane. And you've got people going by you at 40 miles an hour at the shoulder because they don't want to slow down to stop and wait for you to turn. So what we're proposing is to pull out a left turn lane that will allow safe turns into that property. Heading further south, we had that lane because we need a 2-lane approach to the roundabout for capacity and operation. That was a requirement back in 2009 with the Department of Transportation. When they first looked at this, they said, we're going to need a 2-lane roundabout based on the volume of traffic on the parkway if we introduce any control. So that's what we're proposing here. Say we're going from 2 to 4 lanes. Yes, but we're not doubling the width of the road. The roadway already is 40 feet wide. If you Look to the south, there's already 3 lanes there in the same width. So to add that additional lane and the median will be less than 60 feet. So it's not 80 feet of pavement, doubling what's there today. Heading further south, we carry those 2 lanes through as part of our coordination with the DOT and the city's review engineer. We're going to also be looking at potential modification of what we showed as the median to add a left turn lane there. We initially didn't propose that because just past our site, you lose that left lane. So that lane in front of the property essentially becomes what we call a de facto left turn, that most people that are in that lane are going to be turning left. But DOT wants us to look at that as part of our final design, excuse me, and that'll be worked out when we do our simulation model. That'll help us determine, lengths of how vehicles traverse the roundabout through the intersections, queuing requirements. So we'll have all that as we go through the final design. Our driveway itself is restrictive in exiting. It's full entry, but all traffic exiting has to turn right. That negates the need to have any control at that driveway. So it's a positive that we still only have one intersection on the parkway, and it's just a shifting of an existing, but with limited movements. All traffic exiting to the south from the site would have to use Lion and use the roundabout. So that's where we are in the circulation of the site. Truck traffic is going to be limited to the parkway and into here, all the way back that way. But it's this area and then back up. And as part of our coordination with the DOT, we're showing and will design a connection to the waterfront for that future development. So that's part of a requirement is with the DOT and they review our comments.
Well, can I ask one question
Sure.
while you bring that up? If I'm understanding what you're saying, this roundabout, even if you weren't developing your property at this time, if that other property were to have gone forward, that would have still been a requirement for that property?
Correct.
Okay.
It was reviewed conceptually as part of their approvals with the city, the Waterfront Commission, and the state. We'd gotten to this point with the state also in their review, and that was going to be a requirement because they were going to extend Waterfront Drive all the way down. At that time, Waterfront Drive was just a short section. They hadn't even gone north yet. So it was a vision that it would extend from the Henderson Bridge all the way down to that property and up to the parkway. So, and that's why it was included in the comprehensive plan for the city, that's in limiting impacts to the parkway, that was the best location for any control that would be required from the waterfront to this location.
So just 2 quick things. There's going to be an easement or opening left for the development across the way as part of this. And that exact location can be determined as that becomes available.
Yes, we're going to work with them to get some idea on how they want that to be configured. What I see is a single lane entry in and out into the roundabout. So we'll design that probably to 50 feet or 100 feet beyond. So when they're ready to develop it, they can use that as a starting point for their project.
And then secondly, this roundabout, especially if you look at speeds that go down this road, this should be put in regardless of whether we do this development. Because this is not a highway, and I like to drive, but it's ridiculous. I mean, it gets the speed on here, it gets crazy. When there's traffic, but as far as crossing over to get to the bike path, using the roundabout at the reduced speed is going to be the best, most safest way for any pedestrian or bicyclist to get across this way because they're only crossing a small section into the middle, going around, then crossing another small section at reduced speed. So I think this is an enhancement to the parkway,
Absolutely.
regardless of whether this development takes place.
And that's why I wanted to draw the contrast of this section of road of the Parkway versus the other sections of the Parkway. Because it's straight, flat, people just go because they can.
And this is a traditional roundabout, other than the other one we don't want to talk about here in Providence. So I don't want the bad experience of that other roadway to detract from this. This is a straightforward in and out roundabout. The other one, kind of take your life in your own hands. For
Yes.
that, I don't care.
Roundabout,
This one is straightforward. There's 3 ways in, 3 ways out.
yes, and roundabouts were utilized by Olmsted in his parkway designs when warranted for intersection control. So you know, we have Randy Collins from Beta that'll be on our final design team. He worked with the Scenic Roadways Board in developing the stewardship plan. So he has the background and knowledge of what the vision is and what we can do to have a positive impact to this section of the parkway. As I noted earlier, we had submitted the traffic study and this concept plan to the DOT. We received initial comments from them. We provided responses to them. And just the other day, we received this letter which we had requested for the benefit of the city, and which I've done on numerous larger scale projects to get their concurrence on preliminary or concept design that allow us to move forward with the final design efforts. So this letter also allows us to initiate coordination with other divisions within the department to get their input on what they will require and what they would like to see as part of our final design. And upon approval of this project from the Waterfront Commission, we can then start that final permitting process with the state and do our final design to get the PAP.
A couple of quick questions, if really you, Paul or Josh. So just to summarize, the roundabout, the requirements are approval from DOT, scenic highway,
Yep.
and then successful negotiation on other private property for other uses that they would have to agree that they would give up pieces of their property.
Correct.
To allow for it.
Can I speak to that for a second? Seconds. So that's exactly right. And as we explained previously with design review, that now that we have this letter from DOT, it's one of the items that we were required to obtain. We still have to work on the peer review and the buy-in from the city departments. But assuming we're fortunate enough to get to an approval by this commission, at that point, similar to previous projects, the commission's approval will make it a condition that we obtain a DOT physical alteration permit and corresponding scenic roadway board approval consistent with the design that had been approved by this commission. And if there are any deviations or material changes, we have to then come back to this commission to get an amended approval. So due to the investment in the and the time and resources in the data compilation, like DOT says, once you get a conceptual approval for the city, we're ready to work with you. So now, once we finish with the city, you'll then condition your approval on them ultimately approving the roundabout as you saw it. And then if we have changes there, we got to come back and vice versa. But that's how we think. So this was an important threshold for purposes of the DOT dialogue and to demonstrate to this commission that we're on the right track, so to speak. But in order to ensure that what's going to ultimately be built is what you approve, it needs to be a condition of your approval, obviously.
In terms of impact on the bike path where the roundabout is being proposed, is there interaction with DM on the bike path? Do they oversee the bike path or is that a DOT?
DM is the owner of the parkway, but DOT is their review partner.
Right.
They'll DM as a because they do the maintenance, we want to see that we put back what they're used to or their standards for long-term maintenance.
Right, so the bike path at that section, will it have to be modified in terms of to allow for the roundabout, or will it be impacted?
No, it'll
be modified?
Yeah, you can see it right here.
Okay,
It's on the outside.
all right.
So, this land would have to become state property, and be part of that.
So
And
it would be a proposed realignment of the bike path to take into account the roundabout.
correct. And we're gonna be working with that property owner, or as we indicated, we've already met with them and they're very positive, about that potential future connection.
And then just one last question, Paul. I don't know if you were involved, I think you were, the right turn lane into Kettle Point. Were you involved in that project, that design with, if you head up towards on the parkway up the hill with a right turn only lane into Kettle Point?
No, this, what we did there, for safety, because of the curvilinear and people not stopping, we created the left turn lane. So the median turn lane. So, we just restriped the road because the width is there. And we got turning traffic out of the through travel lanes. The flashing beacons were there, as a concern because they initially requested University Orthopedics if we could signalize it. I told them, no, you can't signalize it, because of scenic roadway issues, but also based on the physical geometry of the roadway, you couldn't put a signal there safely because of sight distances and current.
And that turning lane, the current turning lane was as a result of the development at Kettle Point.
Correct.
To deal with the anticipated traffic flow, and that process was reviewed by DOT and Scenic Highway.
Yes, and we, concerns were raised by Kettle Point relative to the clientele that goes there on a daily basis, this type of treatments they get, surgeries. So that's why we put in the flasher to alert motorists that there could be someone turning on the driveway. It's a sensor-based, so when someone pulls up on the stop bar, it flashes to alert the motorist that, if you want to take your foot off the pedal, somebody could be turning out of there. So, it's worked well. The department approved it on a tentative basis, that we would have to look at it in, I think, within 2 years, and provide input back to them so that they would then take it over long-term, and they've done that.
Question?
Sure.
Item 3, the DOT response. We remain concerned about the location of Wyatt Avenue access to the south coast of the roundabout. This may need to be adjusted based on the results of the roundabout winter simulation referenced above. To the layperson, what does that mean?
That means they're talking about this driveway and queuing from here to there. This is the plan they had. That's not the current plan. With the modifications to this internal road, battery's dead.
We shifted about 50 feet or so.
Yeah, 50 to 75 feet further away, because this now does that. We lost this connection to this parking lot, and condensed this parking lot down here. This access is limited to only service vehicles, no cars will be turning. So that simulation that we'll have, it's a robust, and they use it on all their big designs, because of the effort it takes to develop that. And it gives you a detailed actual simulation of cars going through all the intersections and roadways, and provides detailed information on capacity and queuing. So it'll show if it shows that we're back here during a certain percentage a day, they're going to make us recommend that we shift it further away. Right? So that's
Shift what further away? The roundabout?
No, the driveways. If we have to slide this a little to the east.
Okay.
So basically, the idea is you've already considered the idea of addressing that concern, that this new intersection onto Wine Avenue will be adjusted farther away from the right of way.
Yeah, the analysis that we provided to them, both in standard planning software, highway capacity, and synchro software, showed that it will not be an issue, and that's why we've designed it this way. but they want that further detailed simulation analysis that they do on all their roundabout designs, even their in-house designs, they have that done.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Before Mr. Pisano speaks about 1A, I just want to say that, and this is our fault, but we will submit this to the commission for posting on the waterfront. And we'll also we have an updated slide as well that shows the new Lions access along with this traffic element as well, just so you can see the changes that have already been implemented. So we'll have what was submitted to DOT initially, plus what the current configuration is. So you can see that we've already taken that concern into account somewhat, and we hope it's addressed it. But if not, as Paul said, we'll adjust it further. But that, as Matt and Paul have said, that line have access is reconfigured and actually looks significantly different from what's depicted there based on the design review comments.
Yeah, just, Lion Avenue is the access point to probably the main recreational facilities in the city. Not only Pierce Field, it's East Providence Little League home, basketball's going on there, not to mention Pierce Field. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah, understood. All right, so with that, I'm going to turn over to Paul Pisano, who's going to introduce to the full commission the improvements contemplated for today's night.
Thank you, Josh. Do we have the controller?
Just click the mouse.
It should advance it.
Right side.
Backwards. Oh, you said backwards.
Okay.
There you go.
Excellent. Thank you. Mr. Fazioli, members of the commission, my name's Paul Pisano. I work with Marshall Properties, and I thank you for the opportunity to present our Phase 1A. This is going to be a summary of what's included in this particular phase, very similar to what we reviewed with the design review committee, I think a few weeks ago. So what I'd like to do is start with the overall plan and just reiterate that we are talking about this area of the property, which is surrounded by the current golf course on the current hole number 5, previously hole number 8. And basically what this Phase 1A encompasses is a pump house, which is currently constructed, which houses the new pump and the VFD and the electric to run the irrigation system for the golf course, as well as a new proposed maintenance building. The reason this maintenance building is being proposed here is the current one currently resides within the footprint of the proposed development. So as that development moves forward, we will no longer be able to utilize that location. And this particular area of the property has been vacant. It's previously been used as a stump dump when the Metacomet Country Club was in operation. So in our golf course scope of work, when we were renovating the course, we put in removing the stumps and the debris in this area that have been, accumulating over years, and we now have a flat level area which will be depicted in the subsequent slides. So what we're looking at here is the whole area proper. This is 4th Street. These are the backyard of Fisher, if you will. I mentioned that if you were to go out there now, you would see the structure, which is basically a 12 by 20 shed. It has the new tap that we tapped on 4th Street. It feeds the pump. It'll eventually feed both the irrigation system as well as the new maintenance building that you see here. We can get a little bit more of a closer look at this area so we can talk about perhaps some of the features. So currently right here, this is going to be where the employees and personnel park. We're proposing that this area be paved and the remaining of the proper left as pervious material, crushed rock or something along those lines. This here is the existing curb cut that has been utilized by both, Metacomet Country Club since its inception. Rhode Island Energy uses it to gain access to the easement that's on our property. So this has been there. It's not something new. The extent in which the cars will utilize this will stay within this proper exclusively. There's nowhere else they can go. So this isn't an entrance onto the course. This isn't, associated with the emergency access to the development. This is the existing curb cut that's there now. As I mentioned before, this is the proposed building that we're going to be discussing and showing you more details on. This particular structure right now is a single-story wood, 5,000 square foot garage. It has 2 overhead doors. It's not going to be, maintenance going on there. We're not going to be repairing or fixing the equipment. We have a third party that comes in. He currently services us where we are. We'll continue to do it over here. This is predominantly for the workers to gather, the equipment to reside, and them to kind of work from a central point to maintain the golf course. A couple different dimensions to note. We are 30 feet from Fort to the base of the building, and we're 30 feet from the property line to the edge of our proposed building. There was some discussion previously about these items. They were rather nondescript. Those are our existing above-ground fuel storage tanks. They're currently located on the premise. Our current insurance covers it. We have the proper insurance to carry that. They will be repurposed and relocated to this location here. So that's what that particular box represents. Obviously, this is in and out to the golf course. This is the new D box, and we can move on to the next picture. So Matt, as our landscape architect, has put together some plantings. Right here, it depicts the permanent plantings that not only will be planted along the streets, some of these are existing, but these proposed foliage and trees will be planted on top of a berm. That will give you a little bit more of an accurate indication of how it may present. We also have some pictures which we'll get to of existing conditions. This shows the accurate complexion of what will eventually be there. This is the pump house, as I mentioned before. If you go out there now, it's currently constructed, and this is the building again that we're looking to construct. So much like the grocery store, we wanted to represent what the topography is like out there. And I think that this particular cut through that section does it justice. So our finished floor elevation is like 63. That's approximately the same elevation as the road. As I mentioned, there's an existing berm there, which will receive the prescribed plantings. So I feel this demonstrates the fact that we are very insulated from the road, and any view from Fort Street is not going to be able to see what goes on the south-facing side of this structure. This building, approximately 12 to 15 feet, with maybe a maximum eve height of about 20 feet. There's currently a 2-family home across the street, which is about 10 or 15 feet taller than the structure. So it's not like this particular structure is out of place or is too big for the prescribed area. Just to give you an idea of how we programmed the building itself from the interior, as I mentioned to you, there are 2 overhead doors. 50% of this building is not going to be heated. It is a garage space, so we will just keep the equipment in there. Within the other 40-50%, that is the heated envelope, where we would have some storage here, basic office, break room, bathroom facility. There's going to be approximately, at the beginning of the day, maybe 5 employees, and then they will kind of switch throughout the day, and it'll be an evolving flow. But when we start off in the day, it'll only be a few people that will arrive and kind of go out from there. This gives you an indication of what the front of the building would look like. You cannot see this from the street. This is facing the golf course. This is facing due south. So one of the items that Matt had brought up a little bit was the solar study. And we recognized through that exercise that not every building is going to be efficient or really should receive the solar, for the juice isn't worth the squeeze, so to speak. In this particular case, We face due south, and we feel that this is a great candidate to receive the solar. In addition to that, we currently are operating with gas-powered machines. The whole industry is going towards electric. So I'm being told by my golf course superintendent that within 4 to 5 years, most likely we'll have electric equipment. So not only did we size the service adequate to accommodate that, we feel that, the solar panels in this orientation really would be beneficial to the operation moving forward.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Absolutely.
Go back to the plan for a second.
Yeah.
If I'm reading it correctly, the two sides that face into the berm, so to speak, to the street and to the
Yeah.
neighboring property, there's no doors, no windows on those faces at all, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so there will be no activity on those sides.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, if you look back at the site plan, we have, because it's a berm and so forth, he has a pretty elaborate gutter system and being able to handle the water shedding around and so forth. So that area is not even going to be, it might be mowed, but there's no access back there.
Just want to make sure it wasn't a place that people would be doing repairs.
Yeah. And I'll show you our thought process on the whole operation here shortly, but the equipment conceivably will come out here and travel right out to the golf course. Okay. So what we wanted to demonstrate a little bit, I went a little fast. Let me just stop here for a second. So some of the concerns, and we're very, cognizant of it, was noise and having this particular feature in this location of the property. And what we wanted to try to demonstrate is that there's a workflow or a procedure in which they're going to maintain this course prior to the public coming out and golfing in every day. So typically what would happen is that you would start on the first hole, which is over here approximately, and you will cut and maintain the hole, working your way throughout the course. So on a typical starting time this summer, and it gets later and later, this is probably the longest golfing time of the year, right? You can literally get out there in daylight at 6:30 or what have you. So this is assuming the early start. They will come out of our proposed maintenance building and head directly inward to our property. At this point, you're more than 150 yards from any road, and we're talking smaller two-cycle motors and so forth. They're not having the blades run. So I wanted to just, and I worked this with Paul Jamrock, as site superintendent, when I asked him, how are you going to maintain this course when we get everyone out there? And we came up with this diagram. So if you just follow it logically around, working through each hole, third hole, fourth hole, by the time you get up to this plateau, you're after 7 a.m. There's no way they can get through this prior to that. So, the noise ordinance, we want to understand is 7. I think we can demonstrate that that's not going to be an issue for the immediate surrounding areas. I don't know if anyone had any questions.
Just any lighting proposed around the facility or on the facility?
It would be, but it would be all inward, and we would have shade, projections, so it's not going to go upward, all down light.
Right.
But again, it's going to be predominantly on the south side of this building, away from the road. Right.
And the current view from Fisher into the golf course is just completely, there's nothing.
It's
no barrier.
backyards of all the homes, so some of the residents has taken upon themselves to cut the trees down,
Right.
so they can have a good view of the golf course. Some of the other residents have just left it there, again, we're talking about these homes right here.
But the proposal, I think, is to do some shielding with some.
Absolutely, so we can show you some pictures of the existing conditions. So this is, again, as I mentioned, the Venus building would be back behind the fence over here. These homes are substantially larger than our building. Our building would be about that tall in comparison to those homes.
You're also planning to put trees behind that.
Absolutely. Again, this is just some of the existing conditions. So if you were to go out there now and look at our proposed area, this is one of the views that you see. You see the pump house, you see the home behind it. Our building will be about that high. But there's already a very pronounced berm. You can't see any of this area as it currently is presented. And we're only proposing to add more once you get some of the species, the weeds thinned out, and we'll add more. So our building's gonna fit approximately right in here. There is a rendering of if you were driving down Fort Street towards South Broadway. The existing curb cut is noted here with the fence, and you're not gonna be able to see that building tucked way back in the corner. There's another vantage point of it. I don't care for this so much because what we weren't able to do in the short amount of time is add the additional plantings that we represented in Matt's previous landscape.
I could sketch them on the screen.
They do go there. So before I answer any further questions, when I was in front of the DRC about a week or so ago, I was asked the question, and I felt like I didn't accurately, answer it. The question was, why do you want to put the maintenance building there and not in your development? And I think the answer at the time was, well, we're very tight and it works better here, which is all true. But the right answer would be that the ordinance that the city council approved states that the maintenance building goes within the golf course proper, as well as any other golf-related activities. So I think that's probably the right answer to that question. Why is it here? It's here because the ordinance says so. So I'd be more than happy to answer any questions if you have any further.
Any questions? Oh, Tom, you had mentioned you grew up not too far from there.
Right off that street.
Right, so. It's always been a pretty easy, you can see directly right into the forest over there.
Biggest holes in the fence.
Yes.
It was a mess.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Josh? Or-
No, sorry, that concludes our presentation today. We're able to answer questions. I know the public probably has some comments.
So in terms of process, this proposal on the Gulf maintenance will go again back to the DRC?
Right, so we introduced it to DRC. So what we would like is comparable to the process that we initiated with the golf course proper, is at the conclusion of tonight's proceedings, if you would just move to refer phase 1A to planning for a recommendation of the consistency of the comprehensive plan. And then we'll take it up with planning and DRC, and then we'll come back here for an ultimate approval of phase 1A.
All right, so a recommendation to refer to planning and to DRC, or just to planning?
Just to planning. DRC, we don't need you to make the formal recommendation. So we just need you to make the formal recommendation. Thanks so much.
Any questions from the members of the commission? On anything to discuss? Any members of the public would like to speak or ask questions?
Yes, I would like to, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. I'm Candy Seal, I'm from Keep Metacomet Green. I want to comment briefly on alterations to the parkway in a moment. But first, I offer congratulations to the marshals on the opening of MetLinks this week. It will be a wonderful amenity for the residents of East Providence and those of neighboring communities. We are also congratulating ourselves on this occasion. Since May 2020, when the initial plans for the site were unveiled, KMG has advocated the preservation of Metacomet as a municipal park and public golf course. After a summer of public opposition led by KMG, Marshall withdrew its initial application in September 2020, only to return the following spring with a new application and plan. Where the first application did not offer the amenity of a 9-hole public golf course, the new one did. The new version also offered to deed over to the city 9.6 acres of land. We have little doubt that Marshall offered these incentives to gain public support for city council approval of a rezone of the site, as is its right. We also have little doubt that without KMG's advocacy and public pressure, we would not be celebrating Links today. Second, at the Design Review Committee public hearing on June 13th, Mr. Pisano said about access to the proposed golf course maintenance facility, and I'm paraphrasing, "There's already a curb cut there on Fort Street. It's always been there. We're not building a new curb cut." And he repeated that today. Actually, there is no curb cut on that side of Fort Street from Fisher Street to Lyon Avenue, except for the residences at 351 and 365 Fort at the corner. No sidewalks from there to Lyon, no curb cuts. There's a crude asphalt paved driveway of sorts to the current gate and the fence, but no curb cut. As well, a map of the site from the March 2020 title survey does not indicate a curb cut, although there is an indication of one at Bentley Street. As to the parkway, I and others have stood before you on numerous occasions to cite all the rules and regulations and stewardship plans about limiting development projects to the parkway's capacity for traffic. We have submitted written statements expanding upon our positions and reasoning. We hope you will give them your consideration. This evening, I want to point out passages from your own design guidelines for the Metacomet subdistrict. On page 1, Design Elements, Site Interface, the introduction advises, "It is imperative that all development in this area respect the history and character of the parkway and its natural vistas." Also on page 1, under Parkway Character Protection, development along the parkway should be proportional to the existing roadway's function and capacity. Curb cut should be limited in size and location. Signage should be limited in amount and scale. Additionally, traffic signalization is not in keeping with the character of the parkway. Installation of signals is strongly discouraged and, if necessary, must be coordinated with RIDOT, the Scenic Highways Board, and the Waterfront Commission to ensure minimal impact. Roadway widening would also detract from the character and scenic qualities of the parkway and is discouraged. I note that this exact wording is also included in the Veterans Memorial Parkway Subdistrict Guidelines, which is on the opposite side of the parkway, where new development, if ever, will take place. On page 7, number 9, under Building Design, the scale and density of the development shall be limited by the findings of the traffic study and the capacity of the parkway. These are your own words. This is what you agreed to. This is what the public expects you to do. During the discussion of design guidelines, you were advised by council that design guidelines are merely suggestions, not mandates. As lay people, KMG took objection to that interpretation and offered factual information that suggested otherwise. In any event, at a public hearing in this room on February 15, 2024, Mr. Berlinski stated that design guidelines govern. These are your rules. The developer has agreed to follow them. The public is counting on you to enforce them. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else?
Good evening, I'm Heather Andrade, one of the directors of Keep Metacomet Green and also director of Save Our Historic Lands. I'm going to read an excerpt from a letter that Jacques Afonso from RI Energy wrote to the mayor, Dan Rogers, and Eric. So, Eric Skadford. Good afternoon. Our forestry team spoke with the golf course super today and was told that the golf course, also want the trees surrounding the electric transmission structure 190 removed. I've added this new update below, including a screenshot showing this location, the location, or the new addition.
Are these trees on the easement? Because we went through this at the DRC. The easement is not part of this property.
Yeah, let's let her, this
No, we went round and round.
Yeah.
No, we didn't go, we did not really go round and round.
If it's on the easement, it's not part of this
Steve, I think
property.
some of the other commission members weren't here last time, so we probably be first to hear what your issues are, what you
Okay,
what
I'll start.
what is your-
No, I don't think there's a reason for you to do that, really.
We had this discussion.
Please.
Yeah, but, you know, I wasn't there, I wasn't at the meeting this year, city either.
But this,
Yeah, well,
what's on the agenda is the.
yeah, but, you know, it is a public hearing, so I can allow your comments.
After Ms. Andre concludes, we have a brief response to explain this, so please let her speak, and then if I can have 60 seconds after she's done. Thank you.
Best way to handle it.
Okay. I'll start with the Metacomet land. At the last DRC meeting, I mentioned that at least 6 trees were cut down around the cell tower 190 by RI Energy. I had already contacted the East Providence City Hall Law Department for information such as work orders and communications through a public request for information for info pertaining to this act. What I received was this one-page letter from project manager of RI Energy stating that the Gulf Coast Super at Marshall Properties requested that the trees be removed, not just clipped. The Rhode Island Energy rep, Jacques, then sent a letter addressed to Bob DeSilva, Dan Borges, and Eric, basically asking for confirmation to begin this new project. I contacted East Providence Law Office again, asking for any more communication the city had pertaining to the cell tower 190, and that the super's request to remove all the trees, all those 6 trees. Work orders, maps, diagrams. The law office replied that one paper was all they had. The law clerk was advised the meeting did happen with the East Providence Department of Public Works. I reached out to East Providence Waterfront Committee Ray Lady to ask any communications they may have had with Rhode Island Energy concerning the felling of the trees. I received a note from Amy Goins, the lawyer, saying that no, they had no knowledge of any communications with Rhode Island Energy, and she said that I should contact the East Providence.
Well,
which I
just wait
did.
1 second.
Sure.
You submitted an APRA request, which is a request for records. My response indicated we didn't have any records. Records and information and knowledge are different things, so I hope you
Okay,
speak to your
so-
legal advisor about that.
So you had no you had no written records. Is that what we're saying?
In records as defined under the Access to Public Records Act, whether written or electronic. There's no, if a phone call occurred and someone took notes, that would be a record that would be potentially public under APRA.
Okay.
But if a phone call occurs and it's not documented, there
Yep.
is no record for us to.
Yep, I totally get that.
I just want to make
Oh,
sure
yeah,
you
no,
understand.
totally know that, yep. I also spoke with a Rhode Island Energy spokesperson who promised to look into the matter and forward me communications. In our conversation, he said, well, maybe they would just do, because we know that that area is going to be developed, they may have just said, let's do it anyways, now instead of later. After stating in writing that all mature trees will be maintained, how did these trees get chopped? Just by a say-so by a Gulf superintendent? I realize the area is Rhode Island Energy easement. However, that does not mean Rhode Island Energy can take a request from a Marshall employee to destroy trees. I highly doubt this was all on the Metacomet Super. Who has the plan for this new project? Who okayed it? It also raises the question of why the East Providence Department of Public Works had anything to do with the Metacomet land, or the mayor. Is the East Providence Waterfront Commission the stewards of the waterfront districts or not? Although not the same exact scenario, does bring to mind Marshall's dug up vegetation and chopped trees within the protected wetlands without a CRMC permit for almost 5 months. Now, word was said by EPWC to stop the destruction, and KMG asked outright. KMG was told that making sure Marshall's had a permit was not part of the East Providence Waterfront Commission duties. Now, let's get to the historic Barrington Parkway, now Veterans Memorial Parkway. Digging is being conducted on both sides of the parkway for various reasons, such as swales, pipe laying, lights. My question will always be, as of right now, who knows the real boundaries of the Barrington Parkway? Nobody. My answer is no one. While making the parkway, land was bought, donated, and taken by eminent domain, similar to eminent domain used to take areas for the Henderson Rotary. After the parkway was built, the extra land was sold, some to homeowners, and some to the many real estate companies that quickly popped up to scoop up land to resell. The parkway boundaries were numerous, and it was decided that a topographical map, although not the most accurate, would be the easiest way to outline the boundaries, as there was only one man doing this project. The deeds for most of it, if not all the houses or businesses on the parkway, have a note saying accepting of the land taking in the making of the Barrington Parkway. The ones I have seen, such as the deed of Metacomet, have no measurements at all. So how can digging and excavating happen if absolutely no one knows exactly what the state of Rhode Island owns of the Parkway land and the lands that border it? I know through conversation I've had that there is a lot of guessing and assuming going on between all the state agencies, such as RIAPC, DEM, VIDOT, Rhode Island Scenic Byway Commission, and definitely including the East Providence Waterfront Commission. The Marshall Properties plan for a roundabout rotary and widening the parkway is presumptuous. One does not just assume that the black magic mark that is being used now, line that was the official board used by EP, is correct. The line's ownership need to be recorded correctly before any more of the parkway is destroyed. I do have good news though. I am in receipt of many, many maps and deeds pertaining to ownership boundaries. They can be actually found in the Rhode Island State Archives or in the annual reports of the Metropolitan Park Commission, which I hope all of the Waterfront Commission has or will read. I would like to offer my help and my information to find the correct borders of the parkway before any other damage is done to this historic area. Instead of working against each other, KMG and East Providence Waterfront Commission and the City of East Providence would be united in working towards having the actual measurements of the parkway be recognized and not just guessing who really owns what piece of land. Finding the correct boundaries would also make it possible for the Veterans Memorial Parkway, Barrington Parkway, to be nominated and to be accepted on National Register of Historic Places. I see no viable reason why this cannot be done in a timely manner, and I will await your call. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh, you addressed a question.
Sure, so
You remove.
I feel like I just heard an oral version of the Zapruder film, but let me just take this back a second. So this process has actually worked exactly the way it was supposed to. Back in April, there was work being done on a transmission line. The Rhode Island Energy email that Isandre referred to had an attachment, and here's the picture, and you can see the utility line, and you can see the trees up in the utility line. Like you can see it, it's an interference, it's on the easement. So as this work was being done, not by Marshall's request, they spoke to the Gulf superintendent, and both Rhode Island Energy and the superintendent said, it makes the most sense for these trees to come down. And you can see in the email, it says, they also think they should come down. Rhode Island Energy concurred. Like they said, this is right, they should come down. So Rhode Island Energy did what a utility is supposed to do. They reported this conversation to the city and said, hey, city, the owner of the property also wants these trees to come down. There aren't easy. If anyone has any objection, let us know. And no one said anything. And back in April, the trees came down. Just so we're clear, these are 3 trees in the immediate vicinity of the structure, and they're on the easement area. We have no control over them. Furthermore, we presented a significant tree plan, forestry plan, a landscape plan, sorry, Matt, I'm using the wrong verbiage, that shows the addition of hundreds of trees, and it doesn't contemplate these 3 trees being added. If the commission requires, we will add 3 trees to the trees that were taken outside the easement area to make up the ones that were taken down. But this is the bureaucratic process working.
This is a clarification. The trees that we're talking about.
Yes.
Describe what a utility easement is for.
Sure. So there's a line. I think that's a good question. So there's a structure, and there's a line that goes underground, and the utility installs that line, and they're responsible for the maintenance of that line. And you can't build anything over what's called the easement area, because at any given point, a utility company or the holder of an easement has the right, the unfettered right, to go in and disturb that land. So you can't build anything over it, you can't improve it, you can't touch it without the utility company's consent. We own it, but it's subject to their claim of rights, of legal rights. So that easement area has been shown on all the surveys, and it's not part of any development plan, and we're not building on it, but it was just being worked on in April. And there were trees that were running in the middle of it. And the Rhode Island Energy and the super said, it's cleaner to take them down. So they took them down.
So typically, most utilities have a duty to, under the PUC, to maintain their lines.
And that's what this was. This was just, I mean, I believe initially Mr. Fazzoli came to trim. And upon going out to the site, they saw that it was so obstructed that it didn't really make sense to trim because it was on the line.
And I believe this is the same line of utility poles that go right through the middle of Jones's Pond. A lot of people don't realize that these national grid, or whatever they call it, Rhode Island Energy utility easement, right through the middle of the national grid, right through Jones's Pond, right next to a plot of property that's not too far away from where the old 305 plot was. I'm dating myself because this stuff is ancient history. But there's that, they park their cars here sometimes, but that's all property that's under the control of the electrical utility. Then I think it takes a sharp left down.
That's
onto
exactly
Fourth
right.
And then down to Fourth. So that's.
And the gentleman wrote on there,
Utility
he
corridor.
did exactly the right thing. He let the DPW and engineering department know that they were taking this down. And they said, if you have a problem, let us know. And they didn't have a problem because, again, it's a logical conclusion based on what the picture he sent. So we think this is an example. What?
Is that the only picture that he sent?
It was attached to the email that you
Oh,
sent.
there was another picture.
So
This is a good one.
The point
So
being
the
that-
point being that we didn't take this, that it was a consensus. He reported it to the city signed off by virtue of
And
not
even
responding.
if-
This is a good example of governance.
And even if the Waterfront Commission said not to cut these trees down, we have no legal standing.
Well, this isn't part of the work, and that's what I.
It's not developable land.
We
It's,
discussed this
it's,
the last
yeah.
time, it's not part of the development, and it's completely out of the purview.
Yeah, I just want to be able to, have other
It's-
people who aren't part of the.
I hope this resolves the mystery of the missing trees. We're happy to have 3 more.
And in terms of the digging.
Well, it's actually
parkway-
6.
In terms of the digging in the parkway right now, that's something that, I think relative piece to that, I believe.
So there's utility installation going along the parkway. For those that live in the immediate vicinity, you can see it on a daily basis. Today it was extreme. They were reducing it to 1 lane and backing up, but it's been ongoing for at least a month. For those that look at the minutes of the Scenic Roadways Board, you can see that this project has been in the works for years. It had been delayed by budget appropriations, and it's finally underway. The utility work's going on. I believe there are new water lines that are being installed. You can see the coverings of it. And if and when this project is approved and the roundabout is a component of it, obviously when there's construction that's being done, it's in coordination with the utility companies so that the water lines and the electric lines that run parallel aren't disturbed. And so that's a coordinated effort that you have to notice, and for anyone that's done any development work, or any expertise, you have to notice the utility company of your work. They stake it, they tell you where you can and can't go in, and you have to respond
But
accordingly.
the point is that the work being done is being done within a utility.
It's doing the utility corridor parallel to Veterans Memorial Parkway, part of a long design capital improvement
With
project by the
existing
state.
utilities, they're just being upgraded.
Absolutely.
What about, I've got a question about, does Marshall Properties, are you aware of any concern, dispute, discrepancy with regard to where your property ends and the parkway begins?
We're not, and so,
It's never been an issue. It's on title and.
yeah, so the answer is we have a survey and we have a title policy that shares our survey. So we are confident to the boundaries of the former Metacomet Golf Course. The owners of what I call Chevron, but now I think is Live Nation, they have development plans, they own the property, they have title insurance, they have confirmation of the boundaries of their property. I've worked on other projects in East Providence with boundaries along the parkway and or the bike path. I'm not aware of any discrepancies, but I can't discount possibly that there is one, but it is de minimis because the two, and as well as Metacomet Office Park, I'm not aware of any property owner having any issue of a boundary dispute, regardless. There's no disagreement that DOT has jurisdiction over that Memorial Parkway. It is governed by state statute. So, and we're not looking to initiate an eminent or asking the city or the state to initiate eminent domain proceeding. We understand that as part of the approval that we will have to make the necessary acquisition or disposition of that property from the Live Nation owner as well as possibly Metacomet Office Park to make the roundabout work. If we don't acquire those pieces, the project doesn't work. And we're aware of that, and we've been in touch. We're further along with Live Nation. And we understand that that's enough, but we're not looking for eminent domain relief. We're not looking for any boundary expansions. Like, we understand that the DOT's jurisdiction is what it is, and we abide by it willingly.
You're not taking ownership of any portion.
In no way,
of the
shape, or
property.
form, at all. And so thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
All right.
I just
I
another
just want to add
question.
one last thing.
So you want to come up, Paul?
Oh.
So people can see it.
Yeah. Just going back to the Rhode Island Energy, just so people understand that they are currently under an initiative to replace those transmission towers. So a lot of this work is in preparation of gathering the information they need. Those erector set transmission towers are going to be replaced with a single mast pole. And just so everybody knows, they're going to go right down 4 down lines any of those towers are gonna be replaced, as well as probably the other way through the neighborhood going west, or east, I should say. So just as a heads up, there's gonna be more activity out there that has nothing to do with. what
That's
we're
under the
proposing.
jurisdiction of Rhode Island.
That is an
Which they
issue.
should obviously get the PUC approval to do any of the wall outwork. So.
Yeah. Correct.
Okay, any other public comment?
So are you saying that you don't need to know the boundaries of the public?
Currently, the owner is indicated that
How
they're
about the owners
Yeah.
of the land?
I-
We need to have.
They have a
survey.
claim, they would obviously go to court to resolve that. We wouldn't be able to resolve any of that issue here tonight.
Just to clarify, when we go through the final design effort and prepare construction plans, we're gonna do a whole survey of the roadway, property boundaries, topography, utilities. Like any DOT project, you know where the property lines are and they're monumented. So we'll have that all defined on our project, final design plan as part of the physical alteration, because we have to demonstrate that to the town, to the
So
city.
this is a survey on record of the Metacomet property, filed with the city of East Providence, covered by title insurance.
Correct.
So there's no question on the delineation of the Metacomet property, which is what we're here to talk about, not any other properties on the,
Correct.
on Parkway.
Oh, yes, we do. You can
Separate-
talk about the people on the Parkway.
But we're here to talk about the Metacomet project.
How it affects
That's
people on
what's
the
on the
Parkway.
agenda, the Metacomet
Yeah,
project
I
is
think
what's
we had
on the
enough
agenda.
discussion on this topic. Does somebody else from the public have a question? or
Yeah,
comment?
I'd like to make a comment.
You want to come up and introduce yourself?
Mike Pipe, I live on Broadway Street, and I just want to, I'm sure you must be aware of the traffic study done in 2023. The new traffic study that proposed to be additional 11,000 cars a day on the highway. That's a lot of cars. It was the Department of Transportation considered that a level D. Level D is traffic with heavy congestion, frequent stops, and also the level which drivers express dissatisfaction. So that's about what we're going to be faced with soon. We're going to be hit with a tsunami pretty soon with this development. I would like for you all to know, as a resident of this community, none of this development is going to enhance my life. And the only possible determinant at this point are the people I'm looking at right now. And I'm really afraid to say that so far what I've heard and what I've seen, what I've read about, has been a big dog and pony show. You're all shaking your heads. You're already ready to disfigure an Olmsted Parkway, the only one in Rhode Island, one of the few remaining, to put a roundabout. If he wanted a roundabout there, I'm sure he would have put a roundabout. Frederick Olmsted Jr. was pretty smart. He knew what he was doing. If you look at what he designed, he had in mind a parkway for people to enjoy driving through. And so far, we've been able to maintain that. 1909 was when that was developed by the city of Providence as a parkway for people to enjoy. We've had that enjoyment for a long time, but you guys are about to be hit by a project that we've never seen in this city. And I really see that you're taking it very seriously. You ask a lot of questions. You seem to be pretty enamored by what they say. They seem to be overjoyed about what's going on here. There doesn't seem to be any stop. I've heard the possibility that you're nothing more than a suggestion type thing, that you don't have any control over what's going on here. That's what it seemed like to me. So I'm just a citizen here, and I'll enjoy living here, but I look at this project here, and it's overblown. 11,000 cars on the highway. That highway can't handle it. I don't care if you put a roundabout or what you do. You're losing the character of the city. You guys are the last stop. So I hope you think about it. In 15 years from now, I hope you have rest easy, whatever happens. I hope you make the right choice. But right now, I don't see that happening.
May I respond to you? Mr.
Sure, go
Chairman?
ahead.
Are you willing to have a conversation?
Sure I am.
Sir, I'm a resident of this.
I know exactly where you live.
Oh, you know where I live?
Yeah, I know
Okay.
exactly. You probably know where I live.
No, I don't.
Well, I live on South Broadway.
Great, I live at 229.
I know where you live.
That's great, you know where I live, so. Everybody on this board is an East Providence resident.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Well, then I hope you all are aware of what's about to happen here. I hope you can imagine this congestion.
Jennifer, how long have you lived in the city?
All my life,
And how about,
47 years.
Mr. O'Connell,
42 years.
Mr. Ponarelli,
63.
Mr. Conley?
My entire life.
So we won't guess. I'm looking at 34 years. Steve?
52, my whole life. Born and raised.
Okay, well,
So,
so you guys got you got a big decision.
Yeah, we see your concerns, and I don't think there's anything you've said or done or taken a vote that affirms anything that the developer is proposing. If you look at the number of studies that have been submitted for this project, it's far more than any other project that's been required to go before us, in addition to peer review studies. So we are taking it seriously. We do look at the studies. We do appreciate the vision, and we share some of your same concerns. But there's nothing here to say that we're just a rubber stamp or we're just going to approve everything that is submitted to us. I think we've already established that we've worked with the developer, that there's been modifications on some of the things that they've initially put in place, and they've continued to work with us. But anything that's going to be approved upon will be approved in a public session, at a public vote, and it'll be after public testimony.
What do you mean a public vote?
This body will vote on whatever.
This public
Yeah,
body.
exactly. Yeah.
Not only here, but the DRC, we've had many long meetings, 3-4 hour meetings. We've gone through all the guidelines. This is not a rubber stamp. We're taking this seriously.
What have you changed from their proposal?
There's been a lot of changes if you listen to the presentations.
I've read everything that's gone on here.
All right, then you know what the changes.
That's what I'm asking. I don't know what the changes
Yeah,
are.
nothing's been approved today. Nothing that's been approved is reopening of the golf course. Everything else that's being discussed is proposed, and nothing's been agreed to.
Well, just what I heard tonight, it sounded like everybody on board with what was going on.
Give me an instance of what someone said that would give you that impression.
Well, he said he thought the roundabout, what you guys were talking about, always seemed like a done deal.
That's my opinion.
That is the opinion. Anybody else,
I have
can you
every-
point to any other comment that anybody in this board tonight would give you the impression that we're just gonna give them rubber stamp this project?
Well, that was one. I haven't heard any objections to anything that's been presented.
Okay, thank you. Sure. Come on.
Hi, my name's Renee Chacoin. I wondered if we could ask Mr. Bannon to speak a little more about the proposed connection between the bike path and the new development. I know you mentioned using the roundabout. As a pedestrian or a biker, I do not want to be in the roundabout if I'm not in a car. So I hope that's not the solution, but I don't know if it's designed yet, but if you could speak to that, that would be great. Thank you.
Specific to the crossing between connection,
Yeah.
it'll be a typical roundabout crossing design.
So even for pedestrians and bikers, I'd be
Correct.
in a roundabout?
No, not in, just out of the roundabout.
Oh,
Okay, you're typically, you create the crossing about 1 car length from the stop bar, so there'll be, or E-line. So there'll be 1 car and then a gap of about 20 feet where the crosswalk will be. They'll cross to a large refuge area, the splitter island. So the splitter island will probably be this wide. Is that okay?
I'm not getting it. No, I'm seeing it.
Just to the south of the circle. Sit down on that.
Right here. So this is, as I was just explaining, here's your yield line. There'll be 1 car length beyond the crosswalk. Then this will be a large splitter island. It'll probably be like this width, directing cars this way and taking cars this way. And there'll be an opening in that island, will probably make it at least 10 feet wide. So pedestrians have an area to decide when to cross. Speeds are, and we'll design the roundabout in a manner that's consistent with what DOT wants to see here in relation to the crossing, because you design your roundabout and your deflection for speed. So you can design it for 30 mile an hour, 25 mile an hour, 15 miles per hour, directing people around the roundabout. So then there's another crossing on that side. We're gonna work with the Department of Transportation to see if they're gonna want some enhanced measures, whether it's flashing signage when someone presses, that people in the roundabout that are exiting know that someone's potentially crossing, so they have a yield coming out. So we're gonna work with the department on proper treatments for what they see is appropriate for this location.
If I'm crossing a street as a pedestrian from the bike path to the development, do I go into the development? If I want to get on Lion, is there gonna be a sidewalk or do I have to
Here's the
do it
side, you'll come across and then
in the development? Okay.
there's a new sidewalk gonna be all along.
Okay.
It's right at the edge of the street, basically.
There are reduced speed there when they cross, so that's the best place. The cars have to either slow to go into the roundabout or slow to come out of the roundabout.
Yeah.
So it's at reduced speed in that.
Yeah, so what you'll do pedestrian wise, you walk there. The path leading in this way into development is gonna be a dual use path, wide enough for both pedestrians and bicyclists.
Right. And that's what I was saying, if I'm on a bike and I'm on Lion. So as a biker, I'm riding on the road with traffic, then where do I go?
If you're on Lion Ave, it'll
Yeah.
be a shared travel lane.
Yeah, but then I
typically.
get to the rotary, what do? I have to go in the rotary?
No, you'd probably cross and get in that way.
Oh.
It's,
Yeah, that's not good.
it can be good because pedestrians are gonna be doing it too.
You can put a crosswalk on the
Yeah.
south side, the same way.
Correct.
On Lion.
No, you can do a crosswalk that's like south of the circle, you can do on top side as well. And they can put a path to that.
I don't know.
So it depends how DOT wants to handle it. They want to focus it or because there are no.
It's always been a challenge to cross from Lion on.
Yeah, because there is no safe crossing.
You gotta be able to. You really.
Yeah, especially now,
Yeah.
when that's developed,
Right.
you will definitely take your life in your hands.
Well,
Like, right
this-
now, there's nothing there,
This is a
so
lot
it's
safer.
very easy to cross.
This is a lot safer than crossing currently.
In your
The speed
opinion,
is reduced at that location.
Yeah,
That's in Steve's opinion.
yeah,
Doesn't
because
reflect
I can
commission
cross now,
members of
no
the
problem.
commission.
Yeah.
So,
Roundabouts
I do it all
are
the time.
a county measure that reduce speeds and provide a safer interaction of vehicles and pedestrians.
I think you'll need something on Lion, because if people don't know, they're gonna end up in the rotary.
And
You know,
You know,
I'll end up in the rotary if I have no indication that I'm
And,
supposed to
and,
turn
and that's
on
probably
Lion.
something we're gonna work with the office park, because they may have people that work in the office park that will walk too. So we're gonna work with them in our discussions on accessibility. So, that, again, as we get into the final design, we're gonna feather out all these potential issues.
Is it fair to assume you're gonna have pedestrian crossing signage
Yes, that's
as approved by DOT?
correct.
As
And
required, as approved, okay.
yes, and the detail of that, it can be simple or enhanced based upon the volume of pedestrians.
Does the Scenic Roadways Board have authority on signage as well?
Yes, that's what I had to do with Kettle Point. That's why the poles are black and, it's a different treatment. It's not a U-channel pole with a sign on it and a flashing beacon. So, yes, they have input on everything.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
I just have one more question.
Sure, you want to come up? And then
Sure.
this way people can see you.
I'm just wondering, on the deed for Metacom, it does say in the land taken for the Barrington Parkway. So do you know what that land is?
No, I don't.
Do you guys know what that land is?
Can
On
you
the
repeat the
deed,
question?
on the deed, it says, excluding the land taken for the Barrington Parkway. So do you know what that land is?
I'm not sure, we'd have to see what you're referring to.
Oh, it's like on the,
You have to put it from here to match up to the survey. There's no way to state it up there.
oh, okay, but it does say that. So when you go look at it, and then you look at it, can you give me a response?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Dan, you want to come up?
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Dan Goldwyn. East Providence resident, former retired city planner. Just a couple of things. First, congratulations on the golf course to the whole team, including Keith Metacom Green. Tremendous community effort. Thank you again for the scorecard. I was wondering where everything and all the study was going to come in. Just a couple of questions on that. Is there a timetable for the traffic peer review study? I mean, I had a timetable for the noise study. July 24th.
Yeah, we're working on draft responses. We are trying to set up a call with PAR to figure out how they want the responses and what the best way is to accommodate that. Hopefully we have that put to bed within the next 30 days as well.
30 days, thank you. It would be great if everything gets posted to your web. Oftentimes you do that, but then here's some things that haven't been. The hydro analysis, the storm review comments of the peer review study. It would be great to put everything on the web as soon as you get it, because it's very helpful to the public and to me to see that. I know that's your practice. I hope you continue that, particularly with the responses that are made to the traffic peer review studies. And I don't know if you want to bring PAR in here and talk to PAR about what he has found. Mr. Bannon's done an awful lot today, and I wanted to go over the record to understand it all. There was one comment maybe I didn't understand when you said there was no need to widen the pavement for any of this.
That's not what I said.
You did not say that? No. Okay, good. I'm glad you clarified. So there is a need to widen the pavement. Okay, okay, thank you. Just one comment on parcel 1A. I'm wondering, has anyone talked to the neighbors? Have marched on around and knocked on doors to here's the plan?
I don't believe they have, but I guess at the next design review commission, that'll be a public hearing, and there'll be notice given out to the members, so.
I mean, I think there's a difference between public hearing and reaching out to the community one-on-one and saying, this is what we want to do with your backyard. That's really the input I think that you guys want here, I think. Right, but my most important question or concern is the one that PAR made on reviewing the traffic study. General comment number 1, he recommends that a single comprehensive traffic impact analysis report with the scope and level of detail benefiting a development of this scope. What they're saying is there has not been a comprehensive traffic study. And I hope you require it. I don't know how you can approve anything without having a comprehensive traffic study. Traffic has been an issue of this for day one. When was that, 3-4 years ago? Traffic has always been an issue, and you really need that comprehensive study. You have 2 different studies that are not comprehensive, and you have peer reviews, but you don't have that comprehensive traffic study that shows all the impacts on all the neighborhood intersections as well as the vets. And I hope that you require that. That's all.
Thank you. Any questions for Dan? Any other members of the public? So I guess before we have to make a motion to vote to refer the issue of the proposed 1A development, so maintenance building, the other goes to planning board, the planning board for determination of consistency with the comprehensive plan.
Yep, and included within that should be continuation of this public hearing through July 18th.
Do you have a motion to that effect?
July 18th.
So moved. Second. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So our next item on the agenda is the vote of the budget for fiscal 25.
Yes, I will brief. Everybody has a copy in their emails, but the bottom line is that last year's budget was 131.
Yeah,
It was 138,825. This year's budget request was 133,570. It's a little less. For comparison's sake, I had mine probably give us a summary of where we're at today. Right now, we're at $42,500.
That's right.
Long way from spending everything. Everything that we did last year. With the budget for the next year, so the number is, the one that I submitted to everybody is 133,575.
Yeah, so basically this is our budget year, beginning July 1 through June 30th. So the budget does contemplate $50,000 appropriation to Commerce Department, which was included in the budget, that was approved by
It
the.
was approved.
Yeah, so that's in place, so, pretty much a status quo budget. It's the level funded, so it has been approved.
Take a motion.
I'll second that.
Just for my own knowledge, because I haven't, this, what come from?
Basically, great, it's developed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The source of the.
Oh, funding primarily is we get appropriation from Commerce Rhode Island for $50,000. We receive about 30 some odd thousand for the corporation.
39.
From a project that was permitted years ago as part of their sublease agreement. It was very complicated, and then we receive development fee revenue from developments when they have to file an application. Our primary expenses are, staff salary, Amy's expense, other professional services.
I have a question. I was just trying to get an
Right.
understanding of, where.
Yeah, so it's entirely self-funded. There's no city appropriation, so monies that are generated from our own activities.
So it's dependent on the US Commerce appropriation.
The Rhode Island Department of
Yeah.
Commerce, yeah, that's it, critical, yeah.
So far, that revenue is sufficient.
Oh, yes.
We don't have to go begging to the
No.
city council right now.
And how long is that? Is it like a 5-year?
No, it's annual basis, it has to be.
Rhode Island Commerce, it's annual. It's in the governor's budget.
We apply for it every year?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll have to apply right after July 3rd, probably in August, I'll have next year's request.
Just understanding, just where. it came
Yeah,
from.
no, that's basically we're a self-funded group. And a lot of these peer review studies that are done by peer and everything, the developer pays for those. We don't pay for those. So like anytime we ask for a peer review study, that cost is incurred by the developer. So.
In the document that you had on email, there's a line item of program service fee income. And right now it has $40,000, which is the fee that Metacomet has to pay when they submit their plan. That's a statute, it's a fee in our chart. They have to write a check for that. There's an additional fee that we're gonna collect from Bobby Sykes and the Rhode Island Commerce, Quonset maneuver that he wants to do. That's gonna be another $12,000. But I didn't put it in his budget because he hasn't asked for it yet, so, but it will be included in that, so it'll be less of it. It will be more on the black and not on the red.
So as more projects come into development,
Right.
they come through and support.
Right.
Yeah, and through the years, we've generated more revenue than needed, where to the point where a couple of meetings ago, I think we appropriated an extra $20,000 to support the project across the street, the affordable housing project. So that's how we deploy our funds. So.
Thank you for understanding.
Sure. Staff report, Ray?
Yes. Well, the first thing is that we had the DRC meeting. It's been continued. We talked about it already in here. So we're just waiting for more information to come in. And Josh's game plan here addresses all of the things that we're looking for. It'll come back it'll come back to us, and it'll be spoken about and discussed at the DRC meeting. It's not yet scheduled. It'll be scheduled when that information comes back. We're waiting for them to provide it.
I'm going to review this against the outstanding ones that I have from the meeting.
Sure.
To see if they map up so that we can make sure, because the goal is to get to it.
Exactly, right.
I wanted to do this at the meeting.
No,
This is great, so.
I said this to you the other day, I asked them to do this, so.
Perfect.
Okay. Rhode Island rate permitting process is for 9 Dexter Road, and that's what I just talked about. Bobby Sykes is asking for us to pass off our approval process to them. We're still gonna have to pay the fee, and there's a document that needs to be generated between them and us, meaning through Amy, that's gonna say that. It's not yet, the ball is in his court at this point to generate something to begin with. There was an East Point Village architectural workshop on the 18th to review the proposed 70-unit and 58-unit residential buildings. They changed them a little bit architecturally, and they wanted to know if we were okay with, not architectural, but the unit count where they were on the site. We had that meeting here internally. It was a workshop.
So the one off of Rogeland's,
Yes.
Phillipsdale.
Phillipsdale.
East Point.
So, East Point, yep. And their Metacomet development is bifurcated, and NetLink's opened yesterday, and we all know that. And the fiscal year operating budget we just talked about, and Amy wants to add one item to this.
Just very quickly,
you know that some new housing stimulus or housing package bills were enacted recently this week to further increase production of housing in Rhode Island. Remember last year, we had to amend our inclusionary zoning ordinance. I said that a law enacted in 2023 required us to tweak what we have in the books. They changed it again. It will be effective January 1st, 2025. So there's not an urgency to do it. I think it probably makes sense.
Only that.
Yeah, well, I think it probably makes sense to bring that up to the city council along with whatever the city planning
Right.
board is going to need to, they're gonna need to, review their ordinances. So that will be in the works, but there's no urgency for us.
It's not that far away.
It's not that far away, you're right, yep.
About 6 months.
Yep. The other thing I want to note though is that there's now an option for municipalities to establish combined review boards. So just like this board does planning and, if someone has a development, whether it needs planning relief or zoning relief. So it's interesting that the state is giving now cities and towns the option to make their review processes more like this. That's it.
Thank you. Yep, so I think that's the last item on the agenda. Before we adjourn, conclude the public session, have a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So, just all leave the room quietly.